You're listening to the Visibly Fit Podcast. Hey, I'm your host, Wendie Pett, and every week I'll give you holistic, practical solutions for everyday issues related to nutrition, healing, functional fitness, and behavior modifications. As a naturopath, fitness expert, and wellness coach for over 20 years, my goal is to empower you to reach for greater health and to rise up to your next level of living in mind, body, and spirit. You were created with greatness in mind. It's time to own it. Are you with me? Then let's dive in. If you are at all on the fence of if you should go whole food plant-based, I really believe that my next guest will get you off the fence and on the track. Yes, I do. Welcome to the Visibly Fit Podcast. If this is your first go at listening to this podcast, I'm your host, Wendie Pett, and I'm thrilled that you're here sharing this time with us today. Before I bring in Dr. Sal, I want to share a little bit about who he is and why you should listen. So Dr. Sal, he lives in Florida, but he is a New Yorker at heart, and he has a long resume, but I'm just going to touch on a few things. He completed medical training at the New York College of Osteopathic Medicine from 1985 to 1989 and an internal medicine residency program at SUNY Stony Brook. And from 93 to 2010, he practiced general internal medicine, and he saw over 100 patients every week doing chronic disease management. And over that time, Dr. Sal really witnessed firsthand how traditional healthcare in many cases did not result in improved clinical outcomes. And so he really started to investigate preventative and lifestyle medicine. And so after 18 years of practicing general internal medicine, Dr. Sal began focusing on preventative healthcare. He became board certified from the American Board of Lifestyle Medicine and also through the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine. So really studying anti-aging and regenerative medicine. But from 2010 to 2020, he was the medical director for employee health and wellness at the Lee Health System that supervised the care of over 20,000 employees. Wow, what an undertaking. He is quite the guy, let me tell you. Now, over the last 15 years, he worked with other physicians and healthcare providers that really wanted to come alongside him and become certified in lifestyle medicine. And so Dr. Sal worked with the Lee Health System to start developing a division for lifestyle medicine, which is fantastic. But in April 2020, we all know that year, 2020, was a perfect time for him to do this. He left the Lee Health System and started Concierge Lifestyle Medicine, which is a private practice that's focused on wellness and prevention. That's right. Now, this particular practice has 800 square feet, professional teaching kitchen, 800 square foot gym, and a team of lifestyle medicine professionals focused on plant-based eating, regular physical activity, and all the pillars of lifestyle medicine. Dr. Sal's passion, which you will hear, he is so passionate, is in the prevention of chronic disease and cancer. And much of the focus of his practice is also on what he calls de-prescribing, getting individuals off those medications. Oh man, we are on the same page there. But he believes that most chronic illnesses and many cancers are the result of unhealthy lifestyle choices, and most can be treated, reversed, and even prevented, yes, by healthy lifestyle behaviors and choices. And personally, he lives with his 14-year-old daughter, Isabella, and he lives a plant-based lifestyle. He exercises religiously 5 to 6 times a week. He likes to run, play tennis, and do weightlifting. So help me welcome to the show, Dr. Sal. Well, welcome to the Visibly Fit show, Dr. Sal. How are you?
Wonderful. Thank you so much for the invitation. Great to see you.
Great to see you again. The last time I saw you, we were in Bonita Springs, and you invited me to speak at the Veg Fest that you were putting together. So it's been a while.
It has been, right. Thank God we're hopefully past this pandemic, and we can actually get out and see people again.
Amen. Yeah, I'm with
Right?
you on that. I'm with you on that.
Mhm.
Yes. And so you go by Dr. Sal, but it's actually Dr. Salvador Lacagnina.
Correct.
But thank goodness you go by Dr. Sal, because I even had to ask you before we started the show, how do you say
Right.
your last name?
Right. Exactly.
So you consider yourself a New Yorker, even though you live in Florida.
That's right. I'll always be a New Yorker. I've
Oh,
been down
yeah?
here in Florida since '93, but my whole family's up there, and
What part?
obviously, they're in on Long Island in Hauppauge, out by Smithtown. So
Nice.
I go up a couple of times a year just to visit everyone. Yeah, it's Florida is great to live in. I love the weather down here, but New York is definitely home.
Right, right. And so will you stay in Florida, you think, or do you think you'll ever head back home?
No, I can't go back to the cold. I won't let my mom listen to this podcast then. No,
No, that's
it's
great.
so hard when you live in the warm weather. It's just so hard to go back to the cold.
Well, I grew up in Texas, and I always say I'll always be a Texan, but I live in
Hmm.
Minnesota and I've been here almost 25 years. And so
Oh, wow.
I'd like to go back to the warmth maybe
Right,
myself.
exactly. And didn't you do an ice challenge recently?
I did. You saw that, huh?
I did see that. Right. I don't know how
Yeah.
you did that.
3 minutes, baby, 3 minutes. Yeah,
Mm,
it's amazing, as you know, the power of the mind. And when you can just breathe through um, pain, if you
yeah.
will. In
Yeah.
fact, you know what you're going through it right now. You actually just recently had a surgery on your rotator cuff. So you're probably
Right.
breathing through a little bit of pain
Yeah.
yourself.
Exactly.
but
Exactly.
it's amazing what our bodies can do and how they can heal themselves. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show, because you and I are both so passionate about helping people get healthy and well, and preventative measures. And you're a
Mhm.
doctor of osteopathic medicine, and so you're about the whole holistic whole person approach. And that's another thing that I love about what you teach and what you are all about. But let's kind of talk about your history. You've got a long bio
Right.
and a long resume, and so
Right.
I don't want to go through the whole thing, but let's just do a couple highlights, if you will.
So, as we said, I grew up in New York. I finished my residency at Stony Brook. I did an internal medicine residency up there. And actually, I got a job down here in Florida even before I left New York. Back in '93, there were not a lot of internists down here in Fort Myers, so it was really easy to get work. And I worked for a private company for about 15 months, and then I joined the Lead Physician Group. The health system down here was starting a physician group, and I worked for them actually for 26 years.
Wow.
I was their medical director for a number of years. Watched the organization grow from, I was actually number 13 that was hired, the 13th physician hired. When I left, well, while I was medical director, we had about 75 doctors under the Lead Physician Group banner, if you will. But now they have about 700. So the
Wow.
community and the health system has grown dramatically in that time period. And I've always been interested in health and wellness. I've been running since I was in high school, and um, was never really fully satisfied with the way people that come to an internist don't take care of themselves.
Right.
I can't say take care of themselves, because oftentimes they don't. It's just they're coming in for medicine, and you're
Exactly.
spending literally less than 15 minutes with every patient, and it's just like a mill. Um, I would typically see about 100 patients a week, and
Wow.
I always really wanted to do a practice where I could just devote my time to health and wellness and work with individuals similar to you, that really wanted to be well and stay well and grow old without getting old.
Yes.
That thought process. People that come in and say, "I don't want medicine, I don't want surgery, I don't want procedures. Can I do it a different way?" So the practice that I run right now, it's a concierge lifestyle medicine practice, is phenomenal because I spend an hour with every patient,
Hmm.
and I know all of my patients really well. They know me, they have my cell phone number, they call me if they need me. And it's really just a blessing to be able to work with people that really want to stay well.
Absolutely. And you said it right there. when you work with people that want and have a desire to get well, as opposed to just wanting a quick fix Band-Aid
Right.
to, cover up a symptom, then you see the just the fortitude of that person that takes action in a different way, right? They just
Right.
really want to do all things to get better. But you mentioned about you not growing old too fast, or growing up without getting old, and that's the title of your book. And
Right.
so I want to talk a little bit about that, because I love that.
Yeah.
Grow up without getting old. And so I see that along, kind of like having faith like a child a little bit, right?
Right. Right.
Ask lots of questions and live enthusiastically and live
Hmm.
with great intention and be present. And
Right.
so when we're not present, we usually are ignoring the symptoms of our body and what we've done to it, or
True.
that kind of thing. So when you work with your patients, what have you seen the most concern of the majority that come in? What's their biggest concern?
I think it really is getting old.
Getting old.
It's amazing how many people in their 40s, 50s, and 60s come in and tell me, I just feel old. And I look at them like, are you kidding me? I'll be 64 this year, and I
You look
definitely don't
fantastic.
I don't
No,
consider myself old. I still run,
no.
well, with the exception of right now,
Yeah.
I'm still running 5Ks. And I actually, with one of my patients, ran a 10-mile trail run about a month ago, which was
Fun.
phenomenal. And it was really interesting because we ran, and we just hit about 2 hours to do the 10 miles. Believe it or not, the guys that won
Uh-huh.
ran it in 1 hour. That means they were running a 6-minute mile for
Through
10
the
miles
woods.
through the woods.
Wow.
Right. So it really,
Amazing.
and obviously these guys were a lot younger than we are, but it really shows you the power of staying healthy.
Mhm.
And there were people that were older than us, and they're running whatever times they're running. But the important point is, as you just mentioned, being present in life
Yeah.
and being mindful about what you do on a regular basis is what really allows you to stay well.
Yeah.
Because when you get up in the morning, and I always say, your number one priority when you get up in the morning should be to say your prayers, get
Yes.
set for the day, and then after that, your next priority really should be your health.
Mhm.
Because if it's not, everything else fails. And it really only seems like when your health fails, then people start to take it seriously, which is really a shame because, getting out from behind the eight ball, as they say, is very difficult, as you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think of it as, it's a gift that we've been given, this body,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like if you were to give someone a precious gift, like
Right.
a diamond ring when you get married or whatever, and if you were to abuse it and not clean it and take care of it,
Mm-hmm.
it would look grimy and gross. And I mean, I
Right.
think of all the cooking I do,
Right.
if I didn't clean it. And so it's like, why wouldn't you take care of your body? It's a
Right.
gift, it's
Right.
your most prized possession. But you said prayers first, and I want to talk about that because I know
Mm-hmm.
you are a faith-filled man,
Mm-hmm.
and let's talk a little bit about your faith.
Well, I was raised Catholic.
Yeah,
I really consider myself Christian now.
yeah,
I go to a non-denominational Christian church, and I love the place because it's called Ocean Church. It's in Cape Coral down here, and they have a great music ministry. I always say I can't go in there any time that I'm there and not come to tears with something that has moved me in such a way that I really feel like the Holy Spirit is getting getting to me, which is really
yes,
what's supposed to happen when you're there.
amen.
And not it's certainly not a dig on the Catholic faith at all,
No,
but masses of the Catholic Church are different. They're very, ritualistic, if you will. So what I learned, um, well, you probably know Scott Stoll, Dr.
of
Stoll.
course.
So Scott and his family actually baptized me a number of years ago at his
Stop it!
house.
I didn't know
And
that.
yeah, I was baptized Catholic, as a kid, but I
Sure.
really got to a point in my life where I wanted to be rebaptized. And Scott really has become a spiritual mentor for me, in addition to being just a great friend and
He
a peer
is.
physician and all.
Dr.
So I
Sal,
had,
that's amazing.
yeah, for a while I said, I really want to be rebaptized. So he said, well, why don't you come up here? I do it at my house, and it was awesome. It was so cool.
Oh,
So, similar to what you said, if you don't take care of the temple that you have, then it's really hard to ask anyone, whether you're a believer and you're asking God at that point to give you back your health, or you're asking physicians and health coaches and people to help you from that perspective. It really is your responsibility to be healthy, and
yes.
not to abuse yourself.
Yeah, that's so true. You talked about being Catholic and converting over, and so my husband was brought up Catholic, and his whole family, and
Hmm.
they've all converted but one. But it's amazing just the strong foundation of Catholics, and just
Hmm.
I mean, it's just beautiful. And then to see how the Holy Spirit moves in, and as they give their life in a different way, it's just so rich, and I've just seen it. It's just beautiful. So I love
Hmm.
that, and I love that Dr. Stoll baptized you. That's
Oh
super
yeah,
cool.
great guy.
Yeah,
I love
yeah.
Scott.
Well, I know that we're all on a mission to really help God's people get well, but as you know, we can't do it for them. They have to take ownership. And so,
Hmm.
what would you say? You said that most of your clients are ready and willing, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Which is great because a lot of people come fighting and screaming and
Right.
I have to do this, I have to do that.
Right.
So, how do people seek you out? How do they know that it's time and Dr. Sal's the person I need to go see?
We didn't really do when I started this practice, the lifestyle medicine practice in April of 2020. I did just a little bit of advertising in the newspapers, which really was not very effective. But I've been in this town, as I said, for 26, 27 years. So it really just became word of mouth that I was
Referral.
leaving the old practice, and people started coming in, and they would specifically say, "I'm looking for a doctor like you." And, I would ask them, well, what does that mean to you? And they would say, I'm looking for someone that isn't just all about prescriptions, and that somebody will help me with my nutrition and activity. And, the pillars of lifestyle medicine, when you really think about it, what did our grandparents and parents really talk to us about? Eat healthy food, go outside and exercise, get enough sleep, don't get stressed out.
Yeah,
The
back to
simple
the
things,
basics.
yeah, that's the basic stuff, the simple things that you really can do to stay well really hold true. And when you do those things, you can stay well. It's great. You develop
Yeah.
a great life for yourself.
And the fact that you have time, like I do, to build a relationship with your
Right.
patients is
Right.
huge because then you can really start to see the layers of what people are really not saying. Right.
Right.
Sometimes
Right.
they come in and it's like, just help me. But really, what it is, as you unravel it, you see that, oh my goodness, they are stressed to the max. They are
Right.
dealing with, elderly parents or, whatever the case may be. And they just really need rest.
Right.
And so that's beautiful that you have that opportunity to unravel that with them. And so as you take them through the process of working with them, what's kind of the first step, and then take me through a process of when you work with your patients, and how long is it that you typically work with them?
Yeah. So, I like to get them to know them first as an individual.
Yeah,
But before they even come in, we send them a pre-visit form that they fill out with all their past medical history and such. It's really amazing when you think about it. If you look at this stock industry, if you will, investing, people know much more about their money than they do about their own health.
right.
And
And if they
when you
don't have
meet,
their health, or how are they going to ever spend that money, or use it wisely, or give it, or
right, and even when you ask about details, like, when you see a new patient, you want to know their past medical history and if they've had surgeries. And most people don't have that information literally at their fingertips
Mm,
because they don't have copies of their blood tests or their EKGs or their chest x-rays or whatever. So I'm very diligent about getting all of that history up front, because I
huge.
want to know before they even come in what type of shape they've been in, what they've had in the past as far as medical problems. And I really try to wrap my head around where I'm going to go with them. But then the first visit, like every other visit, is generally an hour. sometimes the first visit is even more than that if they're very complex. And I just like to spend time for them to get to know me and for me to know them as an individual.
Yeah.
And then I'm really very detailed about going through their history and doing a full physical exam, which unfortunately, it really seems like a lot of younger physicians have forgotten how to do. You
Mm,
know, the message that I have to young doctors is do a physical exam on your patients.
yeah.
It's incredible how many people I've seen, especially in the new practice, that have had severe medical problems that were really easily diagnosed by a physical exam. And I would ask them, well, what did your old doctor say about that? And they'll say, well, he or she never even examined my belly like you just did.
Do you think it's because, like you mentioned earlier in the interview, that it's like a mill? People are just coming in. It's
Sure.
15 minutes. It's fast. It's like they're seeing so many people that they just dismiss that. Like
Correct.
it's
Yeah.
wow,
I
wow,
think it's easier to write a prescription for an MRI or a CAT scan or some blood work and get them out the door.
yeah.
But, you know,
And there's more
the
money that's made that way too. I mean, I'm just saying.
it's
Yeah.
unfortunate
Right.
that really can be the case if you're working for a health system that's getting
Right.
that revenue. But, you know, for several reasons. Number one, you know, the laying on of hands
Yes.
is something that cannot be replaced. And even if you're not using it to diagnose a problem, just touching another human being creates that connection
Amen.
that you can't develop any other way.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's one reason. But then the other reason is, you know, you have to examine your patients. So that's a big part of it, you know. And after we finish the exam and I order whatever tests need to be ordered, we sit together and we actually develop an action plan for whatever problems they have, because it really has to be your plan, not my plan. Because if it's just my plan, you're not going to take it as seriously as if you developed it yourself.
That's good. So you guys kind of walk through that process together, and you
Hmm.
allow them to be part of that plan,
Yeah,
so that they'll take ownership and do it.
exactly. They have to have ownership in the plan itself, because I always say, you know, healthcare happens once the individual leaves my office.
Yeah.
It really doesn't happen in the office itself. It happens when, you know, you're on that yellow brick road of life and you're getting off the yellow brick road and you're stopping at fast food, or conversely, you're going and you're stopping at the gym. You
Yeah.
know, so all the things that you do while you're traveling on your road will either create health or create disease.
Right.
And that's what I really try to encourage my patients. And that's one of the reasons, you know, similar to your practice, when you have open communication on a regular basis with your patients, you know what they're doing on a daily basis, because you can
Yes.
check in on them. You could tell them, hey, send me a text and let me know if you went to the gym today, things like that. So,
Accountability. Right.
yes, exactly. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's
Which
important.
I think is really a key component, because if you just go to a doctor and they prescribe, and then you never talk to them again until that next visit, they
Hmm.
don't know what you've done. And you can even tell them, oh, yeah, I did all that, but you didn't.
Right.
you know?
Exactly.
So
Right.
if you've got someone that cares enough about you, that's checking in
Right.
and keeping you accountable, that will keep you a little more, I think, on that yellow brick road, so to
Right.
speak. So
Right.
that's so good. So when did you write your book, Grow Up Without Getting Old?
You mean this one?
Yes, that one. Thank you for having that in front of. Yeah.
Yes. Um, it actually, this is a compilation of 7 years of newspaper articles for the news press down here. My assistant at that time, Pat Knudsen, helped me get most of these articles in the right format. And then Melissa Furman, who was my co-producer on this, really helped us figure out, you know, I love the picture on the front, the little
I
guy
do
with the bicycle.
too.
You know, the
Yes.
bicycle's made up of all vegetables and fruits. So we published it now about 2 years ago, and you know, we sell it in the office, we sell it when I do presentations or online on the website and such.
And so,
And
what
I
is your website if someone wants to check that out?
it's Dr. Sal, so Dr. Sal, drsallifestylemed.com.
Okay.
So DRSAL lifestylemed.com. And you know, I really like the title because, you know, growing up without getting old really should be something that you think about every day. What
Yes.
is it that you want to do so that you can continue doing those things as we get older?
Right. Right. And I think the fact that you are working with younger people that really aren't quote unquote old, but they're feeling old is a
Hmm.
big sign of where life is currently. It's very sedentary in
Hmm.
front of the TV, the computer, the whatever. It's not as active.
Right.
And so if you're dealing with people with aches and pains and lots of inflammation and disease is right at the cusp, then yeah, you're going to feel old. So what do you do about it? And it's take action. And so I know
Hmm.
you have a great plan for your patients to do just that, and they come alongside of you, which is awesome, so that they have ownership. But as far as getting old too, I think people see just the outward appearance as a big issue, especially
Hmm.
in this time of people comparing with one another on social media or whatever it
Right.
is,
Right. Right. Hmm.
unfortunately. But how do you address that? Because that's more psychological, with maybe wrinkles or just the way our bodies age in general. How do you
Hmm.
age with grace?
Well, yeah, and you could really look at it two different ways. You could look at a person that looks old, that actually is very fit and functional.
Yeah.
One of the 5Ks that I did at the Adventist church down here a number of years back, there were three people from 80 to 85, and there were one or two people that were over 85.
Wow.
So you could look at an individual and say, well, that person is old, but without knowing what they do functionally, they may be a whole lot younger than you think.
Right.
And then the opposite's also true. You could look young, but really be unhealthy on the inside.
Yeah.
And we're working right now. So I'm also the medical director for the Lifestyle Medicine Institute that runs the CHIP program, which right now we rebranded as Pivio,
Oh,
Pivio, and
so
we were
no
just
longer
recently.
chip, Pivio.
It's no longer CHIP. It's called Pivio now. Yeah,
And
we
what does
did all
Pivio
the.
stand for?
The name was developed because of its similarity to pivot.
Ah,
So what we really want people to think about is how do you pivot to a healthier lifestyle so that you can stay healthy and again grow up without getting old.
yeah.
So we rebranded the name. We did all the videos over again. If you actually look at piviohealth.com, you can see some of the videos, which are really cool because
Cool.
we found 6 people across the country that were the standard American individuals, if you will. And we brought them down to Destin, Florida for about 6 weeks. And they lived in a house together. We had lectures every day. We had a vegan chef that cooked for them and taught them about plant based eating and
Nice.
why that's so important. And we watched them on their journey. And probably this August, we'll have a year follow up with them to see how they're doing. But the transition was amazing
Oh, I'm
because,
sure just in that 6 weeks.
right, right, they got, their blood pressure went down, their cholesterol got better. We did all the traditional biomarkers and labs and such, but it really proves how quickly you can improve your health. So again, just looking at an individual, you really don't know a lot about them until you listen to what they tell you about how functional they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the power of a community that's
Hmm.
doing it all together,
Right,
right? So
right,
you don't feel so alone because so many people may be on this journey on their own within their family, right? Like their
right,
spouse, their kids, they're like, no way, I'm not doing that. And so
right,
they feel
right.
they kind of check out. They're like, well, I just can't win this battle, they think.
Yeah.
And so when they have a community of support, that's really huge. Um, and then, of course, they had the chef cooking for them and all that.
Right.
That would be
That
great.
helps.
I'd like that
Exactly.
myself.
Right.
But yeah, let's talk a little bit about the foods these days. You had mentioned the the yellow brick road and how you can go one way or the other, and if you stop
Hmm.
off at fast food. Well, my husband and I, we were just in California, and there are several new fast food places, but it's
Hmm.
it's plant based fast food,
Hmm.
right? It's the new future fast food.
Right.
And I mean, personally speaking, I still believe it's fast food, that
Right.
it's it's not healthy. It's very processed and
Hmm.
fillers and all kinds of things. But I want to get your take on it. Um, I don't know if you've got that in Florida or not, but just because you're leaving one fast food restaurant for another doesn't necessarily mean it's the right choice.
Right. And I agree with you. I mean, looking at the plant-based processed foods that you see on television now,
Yeah.
they're still processed foods.
Yep.
But I think they are useful for the individuals that say, I'm eating the standard American diet now,
Trying to
and I can't,
transition.
yeah, I can't
Yeah.
go tomorrow and be strictly plant-based. So as transitional foods, I think they're okay.
Okay. Yeah.
You have to tell people they're obviously not as healthy as just making a really big salad with tons of vegetables and
Right.
some
Whole
fruits and
foods.
all,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And eating whole foods. And it's always interesting, how, and I actually have my computer in my office on my office desk, but I have it connected to a big TV screen in the room. So my patients can see everything that I see on my computer. So I'll oftentimes show them um, the, well, Game Changers is one,
Oh, that's my favorite.
which is a phenomenal little video that you can watch. But
Yes.
then Make Health Last. Do you know that video?
I have not seen that one.
Oh, you
No.
have to see this. It is so
Okay.
cool because it's actually a split screen. The same guy is on both sides. On the right side, he's aging in the standard American way. And it's really an interesting dichotomy the way they show it. On the right side, he's pulling something up on his neck, and it's an oxygen cannula,
Oh
or he's
boy.
looking down at his wrist and he's looking at his hospital band.
Oh,
And on the other side, he's pulling up a necktie because it looks like he's getting dressed to go out. And he's looking at a nice
powerful.
wristwatch. It is really, really powerful. And
Now,
it
is that
basically
something that
says
you can get on like
it's on
Netflix
it's
or?
on Netflix. Yeah, you
Okay,
can get it
cool,
on
cool.
YouTube.
Yeah,
It's called
thank you.
Make Health Last. And the guy asks, how do you want to grow old? Do you want to grow old with vitality, or do you want to get old with disease?
Yeah,
And when you really think about that, and I say to my patients, how do most people in this country spend the last years of their lives? When you think
those.
about it, the majority spend their lives in sickness, not
Yeah,
in wellness.
yep.
So is that the way you want to, think about it? We're working and we'll get to our retirement years and we'll retire and hopefully have some money to spend. But if you don't have your health, what have you accomplished?
Exactly. Yeah,
You
it's
know?
really helping transition and having a mindset shift for
Right.
so many to
Right.
really see that what you do today matters
Hmm.
for your tomorrows. And I think, sometimes the mentality is, live life large and slide into home
No.
base and, that kind of thing. Just go, go, go.
Yeah.
And you're not, it's not going to work out that way
No, that
for the
doesn't work.
majority of people. Yeah.
Exactly. You hear some exceptions, where someone says, "Oh, my uncle smoked and he drank and he died at 100, whatever." That's the
Yeah.
exception for
George
sure.
Burns kind of exception.
Right, exactly. But even what you just said, living healthy today helps your future. But when you look at the science of epigenetics
Yeah.
and what you're actually doing by living healthy today impacts future
Generations.
generations. I mean,
Yes.
that's a scientific fact.
Yeah.
When you look at the work of Dean Ornish, what he did with prostate cancer and showing through his research, showing that a healthy plant-based lifestyle with other, other parts of the lifestyle behaviors impacts like 400 different genes that
Yeah.
will decrease your risk of prostate cancer.
It's
So,
incredible. It
mhm.
makes me just think, like why wouldn't you
Right,
go
exactly,
whole food
right,
plant based? And
right.
so yeah, but it also shows the power of food and the chemical release and that we have to really rewire the way that we think
Right.
and go through that detox time and go through that transition of being a little uncomfortable eating things you're not used to. But then your palate, it'll get
Hmm.
used to it, and you'll crave those salads,
Oh,
you'll crave
absolutely.
those green drinks or whatever. So
Yeah, but Dean's work is really impressive because
yeah,
obviously he included in the spirituality and the love and the relationships, which really, when you look at even the blue zone
yeah,
concept, those are things that really allow people to live to be 100 and beyond.
And that goes
So
back to
it's
community too, with the blue
right.
zones, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, a lot of the listeners may say, well, all these people are talking about eating, healthy food,
So
but
much more.
obviously it's a lot more than that. And
Yeah.
when you are surrounded by people that live a similar lifestyle, that are supportive, that love you and you love, vice versa, that really impacts the quality of your life and your longevity to a big degree.
That's so true, Dr. Sal. And I think about, like, my heart is burdened for the one that doesn't have someone in their life that loves them,
Sure.
or that they
Mhm.
realize that loves them, or they feel alone, or maybe they are alone. Maybe everyone else has passed on, and so what would you say to that person that may feel like, I'm either unlovable, or I don't have anyone to love. I'm all alone. What would you say to them?
You and I would say the same thing. God still loves you, so you're not
Ah,
alone.
good.
And if you believe, that there is more to this life than we think there is,
Yeah,
we're never alone. Um, but for people that are alone in the sense that the way that you're describing it, there are so many support groups. You can get involved at any age
that's
in
right.
church, in community events and things like that. And it really is important. Again, the science really shows that people that are socially isolated don't live as long as other people, and the quality of life is definitely different.
Right. So you think about that as we are coming out of this pandemic and the
Right.
2 years worth of isolation, and
Hmm.
how that is kind of a setup for an unhealthy
Right.
life.
Right.
And to see beyond just the pandemic, but to see the spiritual aspect of what might have been going on too, and to
Hmm.
understand and to be very intentional. Like, even you and I having this conversation, I mean, I am just like loving it,
Right.
like you
Right.
can even go through Zoom and have chats and conversations, and
Hmm.
just be filled up knowing that you do have people that are in your community that think
Right.
like you, and support and love. So very cool. I love talking with you.
Yeah.
It's
Me
been way
too.
too long. Um, you've had just an incredible, history of just, caring for others, and just really giving your all to your patients. But how do you, Dr. Sal, fill yourself back up? Because I know it can be depleting,
Right.
right? So we have to make sure that we're healthy and well too. So
Right.
what's your best way that you get filled up?
Well, I played so much tennis over the years that I screwed up my arm. That's
Oh,
one
don't
of the.
tell me that, because I love tennis. Of course,
Yeah.
everyone's playing
Oh,
pickleball now, but
yeah. Well, pickleball is great, but over the years, I played a lot of tennis, and the way the orthopedic surgeon described it, you develop some arthritis in the joint itself, so the bone itself is not smooth anymore, and it wears down on the tendons. So that's, what they ended up repairing, and they put a few anchors in there. But the therapist told me that I should be able to get back to playing tennis again.
oh,
But
good.
to your point and your question, we have to find things to fill ourselves up, because as healthcare providers, we're always giving and giving and giving.
Yes.
I love to read. I live in a community where we have a man-made lake outside, so I can sit on my lanai and just read some books in the morning. Actually, I'm reading a really cool book right now. It's called Limitless.
Limitless.
Limitless by Jim Quick.
Oh,
Phenomenal
yes. I know
book.
Jim
Oh,
Quick.
it is
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
cool,
Huh, I haven't read
because he
that one
really
though.
teaches you how to use your brain and how to train your brain to
Yes.
learn, to study, to realize that you really should not have any limits in life, because the brain is such a powerful organ.
We have the
Uh,
mind of Christ, Dr. Sal,
yes, exactly. You could do
right?
anything,
That's
right?
right. Do all
Yeah,
things through Christ who strengthens us. I think we don't always walk around with that in our memory bank, like, oh, yeah, I do have the mind of Christ. I
right.
can think in a limitless way, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So
So,
that's awesome.
you really have to do things. So I eat healthy. I think sleep is my nemesis. I try to get as much sleep as I can, and
Yeah.
um, that being one of the important things. But then, my family is really important to me. I have three
Yes.
kids.
Oh,
My youngest is 14, so I have to stay healthy
wow.
for her. Yeah, my
Yes.
oldest, my oldest actually, Maria will be 34 on Wednesday, and then my son is 31, and my youngest is 14. So,
Oh my
you know,
word.
I have to stay healthy for her because she's
Yes.
going to need me for a long number of years.
Uh,
And I think when you fill yourself with a purpose, it's different than just being selfish and saying, I want to do these things for myself.
right.
I want to do
To
certain
take a
things
good
so that,
selfie.
right. Yeah, right. Oh, that's, that
A whole
sickens me,
nother
really.
conversation.
Right, exactly. So, for the audience, you really have to see filling yourself up as a selfless behavior,
Yeah.
because you can't help anyone else unless you help yourself.
Talking
You
my
know,
language.
when
Yes.
you're on the airplane and the oxygen mask comes down, what do they tell you to do? Put it on yourself first so you can help somebody else.
That's right.
So in life, you have to take care of yourself if you're going to take care of anybody else.
That's right. And like you said, with epigenetics, it's not selfish, it's selfless because when you're caring for you, then on down the line, you're affecting generations to come. So
Exactly.
it's
Right.
actually a very important thing to do. So, I'm going to ask you two questions. What is
Yeah.
one thing that maybe someone wouldn't know about Dr. Sal? Like, do you have a special, unique hobby? Can you play an instrument? What's something unique that maybe no one
um,
knows?
I love dancing.
Oh, really? What kind of
Yeah, my
dancing?
my daughter's mom was a professional dancer.
Really?
So
I love that.
when we were together, she taught me how to do all the typical ballroom dances, and
Really?
then I took salsa lessons after that. I love Latin music.
Oh, yes. Yes.
So
I've
there's
been a dancer all my life. Like I love that. And what a great way to work out and stay
Oh,
healthy.
fabulous,
Yeah.
fabulous. Yeah. So that's if there's music, I'm off my seat and on the dance floor for sure.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
That's so good. What is your heritage? What
So my dad's family is from Sicily, from
Sicily?
California,
Okay.
Sicily, and my mom's family is also from Italy, but they're from Naples.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I visited both places several times in the past. And as a matter of fact, last night I was watching Stanley Tucci's tour through Italy. Have you
I
seen
have
that on
not.
CNN? Oh,
No.
CNN Sunday nights. He's this is his second series, so he's touring Italy, and he basically tells you about the culture, but also about the foods.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
just a really cool show. So I've been to Italy to visit the towns where my grandparents came from in the past, and now that the pandemic seems to be winding down, I would like to take another trip there.
Oh, well, I believe that you will. You will definitely get there. But
Hmm.
I was just wondering because if you like to dance, I figured there's
Hmm.
something in there in that lineage.
Right, right, exactly.
So that's awesome. Well, lastly, before we wrap up, what is one word that could sum up who you are? Who is Dr. Sal in one word or maybe one phrase?
Wow, that's a
I know,
question for you.
isn't it?
Hmm. You know, it sounds too flippant or not appropriate to say that I'm a doctor, but the way that I would explain that is I think that I was really made to serve others,
Yes.
and it really, the interesting part of the book, the one thing that I really love about this book is on the first couple of pages, it actually shows a picture and explains how I got into healthcare in the first place. So I'll show you this picture, which is, I don't know, on page 4 or 5, or whatever. So the little kid there, who was really small when I first met him, his name was Andy. He had Down syndrome, and I worked in the school where he was going to, and really just got to know him and his family really well, such that in the summertime when school was over, his parents asked me to take care of him for the summer. So that was my summer job one year.
Wow.
I would just pick him up, take him to the park, take him to eat, whatever, and watch him grow up. Unfortunately, he died when he was in his 20s, I believe. And I have to actually, well, we should pray on this one because I've been trying to find his parents again.
Really?
They were up in New York, but I have not been able to locate them because I dedicated the book to him. You
Oh,
know,
wow.
and it was really a turning point in my life because I really just started to read more about Down syndrome, and then decided at that point that after studying, to read more about medicine and healthcare in general, that I wanted to go to medical school. So that was a tremendous turning point in my life. So I think the answer to your question really is, I guess I'm a servant in that matter, in that probably, if I had to use one word to describe it, and it's really something that I love doing. I really can't see ever not doing this in some capacity, but it's a really deep question.
It is, but you
Sure.
answered it so beautifully. And I am just so grateful for Andy. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, his legacy, like, I just want to kind of tear up right now because his
yeah,
legacy is living on.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Hmm.
wow, just wow.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I will be praying just intentionally that you do find his parents, because I know it
yeah,
will bless them immensely. And you
yeah,
have
absolutely.
blessed us today being on the Visibly Fit show. And
Oh,
so I appreciate you so very much. So please go out, if you're listening, and get Grow Up Without Getting Old. And you can get that at drsalLifestylemed.com.
mhm.
And yeah, we appreciate you being on the show. Thanks so much.
Well, I appreciate you. You've spent so many years of your life being a champion for healthy living and for Christ and for really so many things that really have such a dramatic impact on people. So thank you for what you do every day. And thank you for the opportunity of being on the show. I really enjoyed seeing you again and talking with you.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure I'll see you again soon. God bless.
Yes, indeed. Stay well.
Thanks.
Well, that's a wrap for today's show, so thank you so much for tuning in. I love spending this time with you. To learn more and get more free resources, just head on over to wendiepett.com, and thank you in advance for sharing this episode and this podcast, following and subscribing not only to this podcast, but finding me on social media, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you are, I'm probably there too. Until next week and our next podcast time together, make it a visibly fit day.